All right, today we're going to be taking a look at if James Bond is a code name. This is the fourth video I've made about this, and I specifically wanted to highlight a couple changes that I've made to the way I'm tracking this and then what I'm going to do about it. You're going to see that it looks like my brand is actually doing better here in the citations, that we're up to 8%. But I want to call out why I'm not necessarily celebrating that, because it's a little bit of a false positive, because what I've really done is changed apples and oranges here. If we take a look here in the AI context, I have added in alternative names for my brand, which are all other names that I use for writing about this kind of thing. And then I've more importantly added in an alternative website down here. I've also added in one new competitor, Looper, which we'll be talking about momentarily. And as a result of this, the nice thing is this retroactively applies. We're seeing that I'm at an 8% citation right now, and we're also seeing that, for the last several weeks, I've been at this 8% citation rate, essentially since I set this up, because now whatwouldbaledo.com and dfloveit.com are both showing up as being green in here. You can see this right here. Now, what am I going to do about this? I do want to briefly call out one other thing here, which is pretty funny. My presence is still at 0. That means that none of these prompts actually answer in a way that mentions any aspect of my personal brand by name. That's okay. What I'm trying to do here is change the overall sentiment and also the citations, not trying to get my name mentioned in these responses. What I mean by that, let's look at a little bit more specific here. This is a good one because you'll see I've got 10% citations for this specific one. Is James Bond one person or a code name? In none of these answers in here do you see anything about me. This is really consistent. You never get a response that actually says DF Levitt says this or what would Bale do says this. But you do see over here under the citations, that's where I'm showing up. Now I'm going to go into a live Google SERP here. I want to call something out that I'm realizing is part of the challenge here. So I'm asking, is James Bond a code name? Right here in the AI overview, we've got James Bond is not an alias. Interesting, they're switching up a little bit there. But I want to take a look at this. Okay, I'm not in there, but I'm the second site listed over here. I'm popping up here under Skyfall. Here's the challenge with this. They are citing my blog post, but they're specifically citing the part of my blog post where I frame why Skyfall is seen as disqualifying, rather than the entirety of the blog post. So essentially, this one little part here is what's being cited. As we scroll through the rest of this, it's not really being cited. And I think I might know why. There was this study done by Kevin Indig back in February where he talked about how it looks like we're seeing this as a somewhat universal rule, which is it's the first third of your content that's driving a lot of citations. Now, I realize these numbers are a little bit small, 44% versus first third. And he's essentially saying 44.2% of citations come from the first 30% of content. Then another chunk come from the middle. Then it really starts to drop off toward the end. So do I need to rewrite this? I really don't want to rewrite it, but I've put all the stuff that I'm debunking up here toward the top. And we've established that this particular blog post is being heavily cited. Whew. Meanwhile, I haven't really made this any easier for myself because on my other website, I wrote an intentionally bad blog post about this topic. I haven't brought this up before, but this is also factoring in. I wrote this in March of 2023, basically as a parody of slop content that is also slop content. We didn't even have the word slop yet, but that's what it is. I created some really bad images, including these horrifying pictures. Uh, yeah, I think this is probably hurting my cause here. But while it's hurting my cause, it's also helping my citations. You see, What Would Bale Do's fourth on the list? DF Levitt is sixth on the list. And this is also narrowing down to just prompts that are specifically codename, tagged as codename. Meanwhile, I want to call out the one other really weird thing that's happened in June, which is someone has essentially taken my exact fan theory, as in my iteration of the James Bond codename fan theory, that suggests that he's brainwashed, and they've written it as if it's their idea with no links to me here on Looper. And I'm kind of torn on this because, on one hand, I'm like, yeah, I mean, straight up brainwashing theory works regardless of what you think of Daniel Craig's James Bond. There is no mention of me in here, there's no link to me. I've reached out to Looper to try to understand why they're doing this. Does Polly Poisio really think that he invented this, brainwashed James Bond fan theory? I should probably really do an in-depth breakdown of my original blog post versus this one that was written. If he thinks he invented it, that's actually kind of cool. I think what it would probably mean is that I incepted him at some point, or that it's just completely lateral thinking. It is weird though, because it implies that at no point did he Google this or chat GPT it or really look into it to figure out if, you know, 11 years ago, someone already published this exact blog post. So this is a weird mystery that's complicating the entire thing, but I kind of like it at the same time. And the reason I wish it mentioned me, I think it should mention me, I think it should link to me. But I do like that someone else out there is still pushing for the James Bond codename theory, and that they are specifically doing the brainwashed iteration of it. TBD if we hear back from either Polly or Looper on this one. I sure hope I do. So that's where we're at. I think I'm going to have to make some changes to this blog post and this blog post. In addition to, I am going to have to make a YouTube video that really explains my version of this, and I'm going to have to get some other stuff out there too. I mean, the Looper thing would be great if it mentioned me, and it is kind of great in its own way at the same time. It's just a little bizarre. So stay tuned to see what I do next. I'll have more updates coming soon.